guys, I'm finally back with a tutorial on how to make Star Butterfly's evolved wand. A lot of you were asking to see this tutorial, so here you finally have it. I was putting it off for a while because I felt like this was pretty much the same as the other wand, except just a little modifications, but a lot of you were asking to see it, so I decided that I'd make a tutorial for it. To get things started off, you're going to get a 4-inch foam ball. As you can see, mine has some divots and some bumps and some irregularities in it, but that's okay. We're going to sand those right out until we get a nice spherical shape. Draw out some measurements and decide exactly where you want the flat edge to start on your wand. It's going to take some time to cut this down. We originally started with like a sharp box cutter, which worked fine for the previous wand that I did. But this type of foam in particular was a little bit tougher, so it was very difficult to get through it, so please be careful. Ask for help if you need it, because I definitely needed help. My boyfriend helped me out with this. So depending on what type of foam you have, it's going to be a little bit tougher to get that flat edge, but just be patient and be careful. You're also going to want to buy a wooden rod that's going to act as your handle for your wand. We're not just going to glue it to the very end of the ball, we actually want it to go inside of the ball, and not just a little bit, but deep enough to where it's going to be nicely planted in there. Next, measure your wooden rod onto the bottom of your foam circle exactly where you're going to want your handle to be. Then I used a Dremel tool, which is basically like a mechanical electric sander that allows you to be really precise. You can probably find them at most hardware stores. A lot of starter kits are around $10. Then I just slowly sanded all the way down as deep as I wanted the wooden rod to go into the foam ball. So in order to fill in any of those little nooks and bumps that are on our foam ball, we want to seal it so it's ready for paint and that it looks as round as possible. This you also might remember from my other tutorial. I used wood glue. I used about 4 coats of wood glue, letting it dry in between. Depending on how many bumps and rivets and things you need to fill in, you may need to sand it in between the layers. I didn't need to, only on the very last layer did I sand it. Then make a quick pattern of what you want the front butterfly decal to look like, and also the little crown that will go on top of the wand. I sculpted the heart and the trim decal on the bottom, as well as the butterfly out of epoxy sculpt. And if you remember from last time, epoxy sculpt self-adheres to whatever you sculpt it to, so I didn't even need to glue these on, I just sculpted it directly onto it. The butterfly, however, I just sculpted separately, and then I waited for it to dry so I could paint it separately and attach it later on. And just like the other one, this is also not a symmetrical star. So my boyfriend, who has a graphic design degree, he helped me trace it in Photoshop, and then that way I had an exact replica of what the star looks like. I'm actually going to leave this linked in the description below if you guys want to use the same template that I used. This template has 6 different sizes of the wand, so you may even need to resize it yourself just to make sure that it fits perfectly onto your specific size foam ball. Then I turned the foam ball face side down and traced around it so I can start to pattern out the circle that goes on top. You're going to want to make the foam circle just slightly smaller than the circumference of the flat side of the foam ball. I also used a compass to make sure it was a perfect circle. And then there is a tiny little trim border that goes on the outside of that circle. And to make that border trim, all I did was cut out the exact same circle a second time in 2mm foam. And then all I did was tighten my compass just a tiny bit to make a slightly smaller circle to cut out of the bigger circle, so that way we have the border trim that we are looking for. Then I cut out my star pattern, and then I numbered the side pieces just so I would keep track of which one was which. Then you're going to cut out everything on the left side of the star pattern out of 2mm foam. And then this process will be very familiar to you if you watched my other video, and you're basically gonna glue every single section individually onto the base of the star. So I first glued this piece onto the star, and then I glued this piece onto the star, and then I glued them together. Then I glued this piece to the star, and then this piece to the star, and then I glued them together. And then I just repeated that for the last two. I also patterned out two little skinny trim pieces on the side to block off so it looked like a solid star on the side. And then you're going to grab the right side of your star pattern that we put to the side, and you're going to trace it onto the foam circle and cut out the hole of where that star would be. Then to make the ribbons going around the handle of the star, I actually used ribbon. I intended on just using 2mm foam to make these, but it looked way too chunky, way too blocky, so I figured I could use actual ribbon and it would still give you a slight bit of dimension, but not so much that it looks just ridiculous. The only 2 points that I actually glued this on was at the back and at the top, so the rest of the ribbon is just held together by the tightness of how I wrapped it. The reason why I did that was because when I tried gluing it on the first time, putting glue all along the ribbon was just making it look bumpy and bulky. So just gluing it right here and wrapping it tight enough makes it lay really flat and look really even. Then I coated the entire handle, including the ribbons, with wood glue just so it could seal it all together and get ready for paint. And then to make the wings on each side, I just double-sided masking tape off of the side of the wand and then patterned it out. You may need to sketch it out a few times like I did. And then I actually ended up using a thinner foam for these wings than I did for the original wand, just because it's what I had available to me. But ultimately I don't think it made that huge of a difference. As long as you're getting the shape and the form right, that's all that really matters for this. then all that's left is gluing everything together with hot glue and then painting in the missing half of the star with blackish gray paint. Then I finished everything off with a couple layers of clear coat. Make sure you're not using one that's intended for like paper or drawings, because I've been making that mistake for like 2 years and I had no idea until just now. Make sure it's one that's intended for like wood and like plastic and like brick, because otherwise it's going to be sticky and it's not going to seal this the way that you want it to. Especially with an object that you're touching all day like this, it's slowly going to wear away the paint if you don't seal it in there. And that is it for this tutorial. Let me know if you guys have any questions or any suggestions for future videos. Thanks for watching! I'm wearing sweatpants. Don't tell anybody. Don't tell anyone. Thanks. Gotta get my laser puppy. It's Laser Puppy. He's shy. Good boy. Good boy.